evening, Illinois. Welcome to Muslims Collaborify. Peace and blessings. I am Rima Kamran from the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. I am excited and so happy to see you here this evening. You're watching Muslims Collaborify on Channel 21. We're also streaming online at www.org/hotline. The next 25 minutes, join us as we talk about making an impact in Illinois through changing the laws. We have our guests this evening, Maria Muzaffar and Hira Khan, and we're so excited to have them on board. You can watch us, as I mentioned, online. Call in at 312-738-1060 and join the conversation. So tonight, we're going to be talking about how to make an impact. So, Maria, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you came into this work and what does it even mean?
Sure. Well, I'm very excited to be here. My name's Maria, and basically my title is the Director of Advocacy and Policy for the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, and the whole position is designed to really have the Muslim community advocate for laws that really impact our issues. A lot of the times you'll see throughout the state, Muslims have been coalition partners, they've been supporting different legislative initiatives, but there are issues within the Muslim community that only the Muslim community can understand. And so we really felt that it was the right time to have our own legislative agenda in which we really kind of work on the issues in specifics and in general terms for statewide. As far as what brings me here is that before I came here, I had a great passion for legislative advocacy. I've written legislations on criminal justice, on food justice, on healthcare, and I felt that after 2017, I think a lot of the community and nationwide people woke up and said, what can we do with our skills? Right? Not everybody can march on the streets. Not everybody can run for office. What can you do? And for me, it was really writing policy and writing legislation. So this was like a perfect fit for us, and that's what we've been doing since 2017. And now formally, we're starting in the last 2 months to do it for the coalition.
Hira, you serve as a fellow with the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition on the Advocacy and Policy Initiative. Tell us a little bit about what brings you to this work.
Sure. So just to give a little bit of background about myself, I was fortunate enough actually to work the last 2 years approximately in public policy, and I had the opportunity to work with the federal government in Canada, and that's sort of where I gained a lot of my skills and experience, and I'm now bringing here to the coalition. And so there's a few reasons why I chose to work in advocacy, and partially it's because growing up, I was really immersed within the Muslim community, and if you ever come across the Muslim community, you'll learn that they do a lot of incredible work. You know, there's a lot of people working very hard, doing a lot of amazing initiatives, and there's people running food drives and health clinics and just generally contributing to the development of our communities, either locally or nationally. However, I did notice that, you know, because we're so bound up in all these tasks, we don't have enough time to necessarily, or we haven't had enough time to sort of work on the policy side of things. And I think that's, you know, a disservice to so many communities, you know, because there's a lot of issues that affect us that often get overlooked in the general scheme of things. And so that's what really motivates me to do my work, and that's why I'm here.
Well, I think both of you spoke about advocacy and policy, but what actually does that mean? What is advocacy and policy, and why should I care as a community member, as a young professional? Why is that important to our community as a whole? Can you tell us a little bit about what advocacy and policy mean? What does it even mean to advocacy and policy affairs?
So, let's make it very simple. If you are living in a certain community and you rent property, own property, go to the grocery store, have a job, the policies and advocacy campaigns have impacted you somehow. Somebody has made a decision when the garbage will get picked up. Somebody has made a decision what school holiday is valid for kids to take off. Somebody has made a decision of how you can run your business. So policy has always been impacting every aspect of your life. So as a professional, professional or a student, as a person that wants to be civically engaged, it is very important for you to have a say on how people are making policies for you. As Hira explained, Muslims have been doing so much work. There's so many health clinics that are run by Muslims. There's so many food pantries run by Muslims, social services all around the world. And what has happened when you see something like the Muslim ban being passed, legislation that impacts Muslims directly, is Muslims woke up and said, wait, we've been doing all this work for the country. We're professionals, we're social service providers, and now you're telling us that there's policies and descriptions about our community and we have no say in it. And so really, it was a wake-up call for a lot of the community members to realize that every legislation and every initiative that impacts us in a way we should have a say in, and we should be at the table when those decisions are made. And not only should we be at the table, but we should be driving it, because the core tenets of our faith and our community is to provide social equality and really stand up for injustice. So Muslim issues, statewide issues, really all impact all of us.
So you talked about you serve as the director of the initiative, Advocacy and Policy at the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. We're so excited to have you. And you have a team. It's not just both of you. There's a whole team. Could you tell us a little bit about your team?
Sure. So as you see, we have a nice group of wonderful, diverse individuals that bring in diversity in their expertise. We have somebody who has been a judge, we have somebody who's a civil rights attorney, somebody who's an active member and has been down in Springfield as a long-time legislative aide also. And we have two organizers as well. So I would encourage you to visit our website and really get to know the individuals and their expertise. And I want to say that we cannot do this work on behalf of the Muslim community if the team is not well connected to the community itself. So we want to make sure that the experts that are coming to the table are experts in many areas, right? They're experts in their field, they're experts in legislative advocacy, but they're also experts in staying connected to the community. And that brings a lot of important information for us.
So Hira, we've been talking a little bit about advocacy and policy, as well as the importance of it in everyday life for anyone and everyone involved in the community. But what does the work process look like? When we're saying, oh, we need to make an impact on advocacy and policy, what do we do? How do we do that? What does that even entail?
Sure. So we do actually have a very robust process for how we go about doing what we do. And it's very important to us to identify the key areas that our community is impacted by. And so we really hit the ground running, and we start with our fact-finding process. And this is where we conduct research, we speak with community leaders and other members just to figure out, what's going on in our community, what kind of issues are people facing on the day-to-day. And once we're able to, speak with a few people, and this process can take months, it's not an easy process. You really need to get a good idea of what our community is made of and what we're being impacted by. So we sort of discover what the main themes are and the main issues are, and we go from there. And a lot of times these issues are not just impacted, the Muslim community is not the only community that's impacted by it. These issues are universal across so many people. And so we work to have a legislative response that's comprehensive. We figure out, can we do legislation to resolve this issue, or is it more of an advocacy thing? And sometimes that means bill drafting, and sometimes that means raising awareness for an issue. And then we figure out, how can we best present these issues to the relevant parties? And sometimes the relevant parties are stakeholders that we've built long-lasting relationships with. And we find out, are they against the bills that we've discovered that are covering issues in our community, or do they support us? And if we're able to get a lot of support, oftentimes we can bring these issues to the table to legislators. And so that means maybe finding legislators in the Senate or in the House to sponsor these bills and bring them to, Congress or the state capitol or at the municipal, state, or federal level. And if we're able to successfully do that, a lot of times these bills can potentially become law in the long run. So they really do have an important role within our community.
So the process is not something that is a quick a quick process. It sounds like there's a lot of effort and energy that goes into building towards that. Could you talk a little bit about who are some of the organizations you've mentioned? You've done fact-finding as well as started to talk to other communities that might be facing similar issues, that might have the same challenges. Could you talk a little bit about who and why that's important? Why is it important to go beyond just, a general community that we might be involved in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this goes back to the importance of diversity within the coalition and everyone that it represents, right? If you look at the pie chart right now, we have a large percentage of South Asians, and then we have a large percentage of Arabs, African Americans. The largest, fastest growing population of Muslims in America, actually, as a whole, is Latino. So it's very important to not be presumptuous and think that the Muslim community is a monolithic community. We come from very diverse political views. We have issues that are based on our ethnicity and are based on our race and our class. And so the due diligence really comes from making sure that nobody is sidelined. So I would say that, how minority groups get left behind in the large scheme of things, the same thing can happen in the Muslim community, right? The large pie chart can be like, oh, we're just going to deal with South Asians, we're just going to deal with Arab issues, we're just going to deal, but that's not reality. And in fact, some of the most powerful jewels of the community are in those smaller pie charts, because a lot of them are reverts, and they bring a new light to the community that we need to highlight and address their issues for them.
So you talked about the diversity within the Muslim community as a whole, right? We looked at the pie chart. We talked about you not only have it's an amalgamation of race, class, lifestyle, education, ethnicities, etc. But as you mentioned, we're looking at the general population as a whole. Like, we're looking at the communities that we live in. So whilst we might be Muslims living in a certain town, a certain city, you're also working with other underrepresented and minority communities. Could you speak a little bit about what has been that experience? Have you found a lot of areas where we intersect? The Muslim community along with the Latino community, the African American community as a whole.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me just say that Muslims have been neighbors and colleagues and students for so long in the state of Illinois, for everyone, right? So Muslims have been intersecting with other communities for so long. So really, when we talk about where do we intersect all the time. We have the same issues of healthcare, same issues of access to social services, right? Same issues of bullying in school, sometimes a little bit different, but we have many of the similar issues that many people across the state have. And what we find again and again is that when we advocate for ourselves as a community, it highlights and builds a building block for recognition that so many of these issues are the same statewide for majority of the communities. So we've had conversations with communities that have already intersected with us in coalition. There were quite a few bills on immigration, on sanctuary cities, on welcoming city ordinances that Muslims were very, very active in, including police brutality, healthcare in prisons. So Muslims have been doing this work for so long that we were very happy to see that the knowledge base was already there and the relationships were already built.
Wonderful.
That people were excited. They're like, wait, you're writing a legislative agenda for your own community? Oh, this is fantastic, How long did it take? We're like, well, 2017 was a wake-up call for everybody.
Yeah. So it sounds like this work has been ongoing. This is not something new, that we've been building this foundation with other partners, other communities, as well as others who've been toiling in the fields, just trying to make sure, making sure that there is a conversation that continues. You are watching Muslims Collaborify on CAN TV 21, cantv.org/hotline. Today's discussion topic is advocacy and policy. So join in on the conversation. Feel free to call at 312-738-1060. We're talking to our guests, Maria Muzaffar and Hira Khan, who focus on the advocacy and policy initiative at the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. So we're going to delve back right back into this. So we've been talking about how it's important to work towards a legislative agenda and to talk about how do we create this agenda, what are the priorities. But what's going on right now? I know that currently the session hasn't really started. So what's going on in Springfield right now, and why should we care?
Sure. So Illinois right now is going through a veto session. So what that basically means is this is a period in time where legislators have the opportunity to look back on bills that have been presented earlier in the session and may not have been passed because the governor vetoed them. So to our knowledge, the governor of Illinois has vetoed about 8 bills out of 599.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's quite a large amount. There's always a lot going on. And so it gives them a chance to sort of just amend and relook at these bills and see if they can improve them in any way. So there's a few bills that the coalition has actually decided to support, one being the pricing prescription insulin bill. So diabetes is a very large issue within any community. It's a very big public health issue. And this bill gives us an opportunity to actually cap the price of insulin on a monthly basis to make this medication more affordable for people. Another bill that we've been working really hard on or really supporting is Bill HB 3888, and that's on ethylene oxide. So if you're not familiar with ethylene oxide, it is a chemical that is linked to various cancers. It's emitted by various factories and a lot of other avenues. So the exposure can be harmful to people in the long run. And fun fact, a lot of Muslim physicians were actually very instrumental in pushing this bill along, and it's now going to be potentially read at veto session, and that's something we want to support. Additionally, we've also looked into bills relating to marijuana and vaping. These are, big epidemics across the country. And these bills have some sort of technical amendments that limit and modify where these things can be smoked in public areas. So for example, are you allowed smoking marijuana or are you allowed vaping outside the masjid? These things need to be clarified, and so that's what the bill is working on. And additionally, it also works to ban any e-flavored cigarettes. And as you can imagine, a lot of the youth who've never smoked before would be very enticed by these sort of products because now they have a flavor that tastes good and is appealing, and that can lead to addictions and other health problems later on. So these are widespread health issues that we really do need to keep an eye out on. And finally, we have one bill that promotes the availability of affordable housing. And it does that in a way where homeowners or property owners are actually able to be incentivized to provide a certain number of units of their housing to affordable housing. And that makes living a lot easier and accessible for many people.
Wonderful. So it sounds like these bills came up and then they were vetoed. So now we're going back in and saying these are really important. Here's the support we have, and it's important that they be reconsidered to be passed.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful.
And I just want to state, these are examples, really good examples, how the Muslim community has already been intersecting with this whole legislative process. For example, the bill with the oxide issue, Muslim physicians were organizing. They were talking about how harmful it is. They were testifying at hearings. And then the vaping bill, that already the community is a subset because, as you know, there's a lot of individuals in the Muslim community, young youth, that, are not drinking alcohol, but they are developing addictions and consider vaping okay, right? So many of these issues already affect us, and we are playing a role. And really, the statistics will always be surprising of how much, if we actually had Muslims come out and testify for these bills, how much of an impact they already have.
So you bring up a good point. So we've been talking about the work that a lot of folks have been doing and building the foundation. You've talked about how you're building a legislative agenda along with other coalition partners as well as other underrepresented communities. But what about us? What about individuals, who are watching at home as well as who are going to be watching online? What are things that we can do as lay people to support advocacy for our community as a whole?
Well, the first thing I would say is that you need to know who your legislator is, right? So at the city level and at the county level, you need to know who represents you. And the best thing you can do is, honestly, Google is the best way to find out so much information, especially about politicians, unfortunately. But you can actually go to links that will have you put in your zip code, and all you have to do is put in your zip code of your town, and it'll tell you who your legislator is, and it'll also show you their voting record, so you'll be able to see what party they belong to, what their voting record is. And the most important thing is introduce yourself. Right? Introduce yourself, make it really simple. Let them know that you're constituents, that you have views that you consider important. Look at the bills that are present. Think about them. Maybe you have an opinion on them. Maybe you have expertise about it. And make yourself available. And that's the whole process of being civically engaged, is that you don't have to be a bill drafter. You don't have to be a legislator. You don't have to be a policy expert. The biggest thing, I think, for Hera and I and our team is to take away this myth that you have to be an expert to be passionate about policy. You have to be an expert in being passionate about something. And nothing changes without codified law. If you look at the civil rights movement, if you look at when slavery was ended in this country, and so many numerous examples, the ADA, when individuals with disabilities were, were given access to so many of the facilities that they should have already had, all of these were put in place because somebody was passionate about it. And that is within our faith, within our community, and we just want to come to call and answer the call.
You can find all this information on our website, www.ilmuslimciviccoalition.org. The information that Hira and Maria shared about who is your legislator at the city, county, state, and federal level, like mentioned, these are easy links that you can find online. Just type it in and you'll be able to find the exact information that you're looking for. Make sure that you are taking action. We talk about collaborate, amplify, and build civic power. And the way that we build civic power is by taking the power and making sure that we use it. So we've been talking about 2020 as a critical year. So not only because it is an election year, we have the census coming up, there are several things that the advocacy and policy team is going to be working on together, along with others who are working towards making sure that the voices of the underrepresented are heard. And I'm sure we'll continue to hear more from this team about what it is that we need to be doing. But on our end, I want to remind you that we have to continue to build civic power. Census 2020, Vote 2020, make sure that you are involved and you are a bigger part of conversations in your communities, as well as you continue to make sure that you are making a difference by picking up the phone, by emailing your representatives, and making sure that they stay responsible because they represent you, and that's their job. We're going to be going to a video, sharing a video with you, talking a little bit about why it's important, and we'll see that in a moment.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is your brother Omar Sulaiman reminding you to participate in the census. It is extremely important that we are counted and that we have the resources that are allocated to our community and that we are not forgotten in the census. So please do be a part of this, support it in every way, and make sure that you spread the word. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
You can learn more about the census work as well as advocacy and policy at www.ilmuslimciviccoalition.org. We wanted to let you know the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition is a partnership of hundreds of activists, influencers, and organizations, and our mission, as always, as we mentioned, is to collaborate and amplify social and civic services towards building a strong and equitable America. The coalition empowers the voices voices of cultural and diverse Muslims. And as such, we wanted to amplify some of the important events that are coming up. Firstly, we wanted to bring to your attention the 19th annual Chicago Muslim Turkey Drive. This is a wonderful tradition that was started 19 years ago, and the goal here is to help feed a family in need this Thanksgiving. It's in partnership with the Sabil Food Pantry, Muhammad Web Foundation, and Ifanka, and they work diligently with the community and provide about 5,000 turkeys to 8 CPS schools. It's an exciting program. We encourage you to check it out at www.sabilpantry.org. Learn how you can contribute as well as continue to make Thanksgiving a season of just giving and just being thankful. And hoping that you can contribute to feed a family that might be in need. Another great event that is ongoing is the American Medina exhibit, which is at the Chicago History Museum. It continues to be open to the public for the next year, and you can learn more about it at www.chicagohistory.org/Muslim Chicago. It is a wonderful exhibit that allows you to learn about Muslims who have been a part of Chicagoland and have made it their home and how they've contributed as a whole. The last event that I want to bring to your attention is the 2019 celebration, end-of-year celebration for Iman, which is the Inner City Muslim Action Network, with guest speakers Yusuf Salam, Mo Amer, and Kim Fox. You're welcome to check it out and see all the wonderful things that Iman continues to do for the community. So thank you for joining us today. We are coming to the end of our program. You have been watching Muslims Collaborify. I am Rima Kamran from the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. I've been honored and excited to be joined by my colleagues Maria Muzaffar and Hira Khan. We've only scratched the surface of the many things that we're working on, as well as the work that is required in advocacy and policy. If you need more information or would like to join our show to collaborate and amplify the work you're doing, please do email us, reach out to us via our website, or email us at info@ilmuslimciviccoalition.org. Our website has all the resources that we've been speaking about. You're welcome to check that out. Join us next week on Monday, November the 18th at 7:30 p.m. for another discussion with Muslim influencers. And as we sign off, thank you again. Remember, collaborate, amplify, and build civic power.